The sunshine, it's me, Timmy from ABLAZE podcast. This is one of those videos that I said I would do, I guess, when I'm feeling a little bit of the craving. If you don't know, I used to have really substantial substance abuse with ice, I guess we'll call it. But yeah, I think now I want to kind of move on to kind of this point of view, a standpoint of observing more and kind of seeing what's happening, especially in terms of when I'm getting a craving, observing sort of time frames and loops, patterns. I would say, like, generally it's interesting right now because I'm coming towards the end of season 3, capping the episodes, the season at episode 50, and we're at episode 48 currently. And things have been pretty hectic. Like, I've been working hours like every time I'm doing episodes, which is generally about 5 or 6 days a week. As in, like, when I'm working on it, there's only 3 episodes launched every week, but generally I work 5 to 6 days a week, and I'm often on my phone for both for like a bit of doom scrolling for fun, but mostly it'd be like probably like a 10% fun to 90% research and networking, and also editing and posting stuff. I'd be like up at 9 a.m. and then probably won't be off my phone until like 12 or sometimes even 3 a.m. They're really crazy hours. I wear glasses, so it's definitely not good for my eyes. But I love it, and it's such an amazing thing to be able to like interact with so many people and see so many people enjoy my content and my authenticity, like my personality. It's always something I've really enjoyed. Even when I was working in hospitality, I loved making people laugh, especially when they were stressed or really nervous or feeling really shy and felt like antisocial or something. Coaxing people out of that shell and making them feel like they can smile and be themselves and feel like they have a place to belong was always something I really, really loved. It's something I haven't even really talked about until now, so I feel really special, like that this video is actually helping me talk about this stuff. It's reminding me of some very important things as well. I'm noticing as well, like, generally the pattern for me is I often go through phases where, because it's so crazily hectic and like almost like near burnout sometimes, which I have to be careful. I'm trying to pace my events a lot more now. But like with me, I often go through this high energy phase, and then as it kind of comes down, then I kind of fall into this kind of like what I usually call like the limbo state, where you're kind of hanging between emotions. You're kind of like trying to regulate yourself, but emotions and like feelings or nostalgia, these kind of like strange feelings sometimes kind of wash over you in an extremely overwhelming way, and then I find it hard to regulate that emotion, or I find it hard to kind of deal with, maybe like when it's feeling quite not as productive and empty, or like the schedule's kind of too free, and I'm like, but I'm tired, so I need to rest, but I don't want to just rest. And now I feel like I need to like kind of experience more. So then that's kind of feel for me personally, I'm speaking about my experiences, and it might relate, you might relate to it, or maybe, I don't know, it might help people. This is the whole reason for the video. I feel like it's why I sometimes turn to substance abuse. It's to kind of, as they say, a lot of times it's to feel something. And it's interesting, like, I haven't been diagnosed officially, but the way I conduct myself and the way my personality is, the way I talk, the way I act, most people probably agree that I likely would have like some form of ADHD or something. And there was a study apparently, which I'm going to have a look at the statistics and double check that, but apparently there was kind of like a rumor about saying that people with ADHD are more prone to getting addiction because they would often feel the need for like something drastic to like get that feeling. And ADHD people apparently might be more prone to also liking spicy food, because the capsaicin, the spicy feeling, tends to give you like that kind of sense of like I'm alive kind of feeling. And of course, like with rushes and highs, drugs, alcohol, all these things will kind of give you that kind of sense of huge dopamine rush, right? And I think part of the process is to really get to understand the kind of person that you are and understand how your cycle works. And this is when, I guess, like, why people say like therapy and psychiatry all these kind of evaluations kind of come into play. Um, for me, I also have to be very, very self-aware. I've always been told by, especially like psychiatrists and such and therapists, they say I'm very, very insightful. But the issue is sometimes I have trouble getting past those insights and actually like hunkering down and making sure I hold to like the goals that I was trying to establish with these things. There's been several times where I was doing pretty good, and then like I would just last minute kind of cave in, and then be like caving in and go, oh, whatever, I'll just do it, which is so stupid. And I'm not doing that anymore. And I think a big thing that's really kind of helping me with this time round is I actually, for the very, very first time, I've never ever experienced this before, but the very first time I've seen someone kind of almost like over might be experiencing to a level of overdosing in front of me. I was with a friend and we came out of a station yesterday, and then someone was on the road and having a episode. And he was an incredible person. He went straight up to check on the person while other people were kind of not sure what was happening or just thought it was a drunk person at the time. And we noticed that he was like shaking convulsively for a bit, and all that kind of stuff. And it was a lot. And it won't lie, I felt like I was shaken up by it, because I've just never really been in those kind of situations very often, and I definitely didn't know what to do. Someone rode by and was like, you need to put him into a recovery position, and then like I got really flustered, couldn't hear him very well. My hearing's always like really bad, especially when I'm like nervous. And then he like kind of was like kept raising his voice, and then he like rode by, and I was like, well, if you're already here, why don't you like help us? Like, I was thinking like, why didn't he just help us do it, so like we won't waste time? Anyway, he just said like, anyway, that's beside the point. But anyway, in the end, it was great. I'm so grateful that the person woke up and actually was a bit like, okay, like a little bit lost. But apart from that, he seemed like he was in good spirits and was on the way to recovery, and he was in good hands with police and, ambulance and all that. But it was just, and it was a really nice experience to see how many people, like among like the whole time frame when that was happening between the arrival of paramedics, I think I never saw not even one person walk past without stopping or ride past without stopping. Cars, bicycles, motorbike, every single person stopped just to say, are you guys calling an ambulance? Is everything okay? Is he all right? What's going on with him? And amongst one of them, there was a nurse who was an enrolled nurse who stopped, and she had asked about it, and she was saying that that's amazing, that's incredible. And she's like, I'm so happy to hear how many people have like stopped in Australia to like, to be like helping people. It really kind of, it's one of those moments where you're like, faith is restored in humanity, but also kind of just showcases how everyone has this good belief that even if you're like a substance abuser of some sort, or if you're like a mental health issue patient or whatever, everyone is a human being and deserves that respect and care and love. But yeah, I thought I'd just jump on here for a rant. That's the whole point. I'm thinking like every time I have like a thought about towards that direction or craving or kind of feel like use, it would be good to jump on here, think about what's going on, but like share it, and feels like talking to a friend, but I also don't have to kind of like actually bother a friend. And of course, like friends can see it. My friends all follow my channels, and they can reach out if they wanted to or if they have time. I'm doing good today. I'm in a very good place. I'm just very tired. I did not have a great sleep last night. While I'm on here, I do want to mention one of the things that using stuff has made very challenging was sleep. I was already kind of a poor sleeper in my late 20s because work got more and more stressful, and I often just slept very lightly, and I move around a lot, and my sleep would often be quite broken, and I would kind of wake up in little, sort of like sleep in little snippets, and it's just never very restful. But one thing has really changed lately. So one of the first things I was trying to do was I was trying to get, because my friend had given me some Valium before in the past, and I was like, okay, that made me knocked me out. So it's like, it's a good deep sleep, but it also kind of feels a bit wrong. You know what I mean if you ever had it before. And the hospital also straight away would tell you, don't use it too often. It's not something you should be consistently relying on, which makes absolute sense. Anyway, so my next thing was, I was like, oh, maybe I can get something with like melatonin kind of supplements, but apparently you need to get like some kind of it's basically not over the counter kind of medication or supplements. So then I moved on from that because none of the doctors or like sexual health check people would actually give that to me. Maybe it just wasn't bad enough or something. Anyway, so like it definitely affected me. I feel like your judgment clouds and isn't as sound, especially when you're trying to recover from like an addiction. And then eventually looked around a bit and I was like, okay, well, there's like, some gummies and stuff online. But then I realized there was one company that seemed really promising, but then I realized there was like 500 copycats of that, and they're not from Australia, so they're not actually going to be accessible here anyway. And they didn't ship overseas. And I was like, either way, it's going to be too expensive and all that. So I was like, okay, what else can I do? And I looked around a bit more and I ended up with, I'll show you. And this is not a promo for it because, I'm not, like, if you do have issues, make sure you speak to someone or do your own research. But it's called l-theanine. Yeah. Oops. Sorry about my crazy hair. I was doing some free skating. Videos coming up about that soon if you don't know what it is, but Google it on Instagram and YouTube if you want to know what it is. If you're into skating stuff, it's super cool. It's super fun. Quite challenging for me because I'd never skated before and I can't even ride a bike. Anyway, so this basically calms the mind and relieves symptoms of stress. And what I found it does though is, so towards the end of the night when I'm ready to go to bed, I'll kind of start winding down and then that's when I'll take one. And it just kind of relieves your stress. But the main thing is I find I just kind of suddenly relax, but then I also kind of immediately start feeling like I'm a little bit like I'm wanting to nod off. Not in the same way as melatonin, I don't feel. It's just kind of, you're like, oh, I really feel like I'm ready for bed. And then you fall asleep. And then when I fell asleep, it was just really kind of feels like a REM cycle kind of sleep, like where I was like really deep in there, but I was like having dreams. I was really consistently felt like I was sleeping at the same level all the way through for like a solid at least 7 to 8 hours every single time. And I wake up feeling pretty good. But last night just I think it was there's like music playing around the neighbors and stuff, and so I was like, it was a little disruptive, and so that didn't work quite as well, but I still slept a pretty consistent amount despite that, which I normally wouldn't. I'd probably just be like eyes shut, but pretty much mostly awake. So I think it's got a really, it's for like, I think $30 with 50 capsules. That's like 50 nights worth of sleep. I'd say that's a pretty darn good deal. So give it a go maybe, but do some research first. Anyway, that's all I have for today's rant. I posted a poll on YouTube, by the way, so go check that out if you can. It's about episode 50, the final episode of the of season 3. I want to do a live stream. I just want to get some of your opinions and hope you guys can join and have some fun.